So you probably will be prompted to accept whether you're happy for this to be recorded or not. If you don't want to be recorded, obviously keep your camera off and your mic muted. And actually, if you keep your mic muted when you're not speaking, that would be great too, because sometimes people are in busy offices. So I see we've got about 20 people almost in the room now. So we are at 1 o'clock. So I think we will just maybe go ahead and make a start. So welcome to everyone. I think some of you maybe have already joined our session a few weeks ago now, which was to introduce the open call. This is the final open call for the Fair Impact Project. We've had 2 already, and this is the 3rd and final one. So today's session is really just meant to be a very informal session. We will run very quickly through the slides we presented during the introductory webinar, just in case you weren't at that. But the full recording is also available online. As you've seen, it is being recorded. Again, this is for people who weren't able to join this session. And as you've already heard, the questions that you might have are probably questions that other people will have. So it just helps us to provide some useful information to people who are considering applying. So today's session is going to be a maximum of an hour. We probably won't even need that long. It's really just a chance for us to really quickly run through the 4 support actions that are on offer and to give you a chance to ask any questions that you have. So again, just that reminder that we are just doing the recording. It's going to be up on the website hopefully by the end of the week. I won't go into too much detail again about the Fair Impact Project, since I think many of you have already seen us at many different webinars and the like, but it is just a reminder that these support actions are being funded through the Fair Impact Project, and we are one of the Infra EOS projects. So we are running into the last year of the project now. We wrap up in at the end of May 2025. So this set of support actions will be the ones that are running between the start of 2025 through to April 2025, and then we'll wrap up in June. This is one of 3 different types of support we offer. So this is the financial support, and this is where we give you a little bit of money just to really buy you some time, essentially, to work with specific tools or approaches and to give them a try. The money is really just there to help give you a reason to prioritize spending some time on something that maybe otherwise you would find difficult to do. So the money is there just to help you to kind of grease the wheels in that respect. And as mentioned, this is the final open call. So we're hoping that there will, for everybody here on the call today, there will be one of the 4 support actions that looks useful for you to join. So I am going to quickly give you a recap of the 4 support actions that we have. Again, we're not going to go into too much detail. You can have a look at the recording from the introductory webinar if you want to go into more detail. We have representatives from, I think, 3 of the 4 support actions with us today. Unfortunately, we don't have anybody from this particular support action, but we will feed back any questions that we can't answer to the support action. Oh, yay. Okay, excellent. So we have a full house. That's great to know. Excellent. So I will run through this, and obviously if there's anything that the support providers would like to add that I'm not covering, feel free to jump in, and then we'll save it to the end. We'll kind of go through each of these, and then we'll briefly recap them and then move on to the questions and answers. So the first support action is managing data types, schemas, and vocabularies and crosswalks for fair research or metadata. And this is a support action that we're running with FairCore for EOSC, which is our colleague that you just saw there a minute ago. And in the support action, what we are giving people the chance to do is to work with one or more of the components that have been developed by the FairCore for EOSC project. So we have the data type registry, which allows for machine actionable standardization and enrichment of metadata schemas, the vocabulary service, which enables the creation, curation, and distribution of controlled vocabularies, and they offer the metadata schema and crosswalk registry, which is there to help support interoperability between catalogues and information systems. So in this particular support action, the targeted groups that we're encouraging to apply are those who work as repository managers or service providers in repositories, data stewards, and data officers. So it's quite a wide-ranging one, this one. I think we have quite a wide range of possibilities for people to get involved. There are a few things that you would need to have to really fully realize a successful participation, and that would be an understanding of metadata models, and knowledge specifically about working with APIs would be advantageous, and basic knowledge of research data management. So these are the kinds of things we're looking for. Obviously, you'll be getting some introduction to the components from the support providers, so you would get some instruction on how to make use of these, but these are the basic things we would expect you to have coming into this. So you can see in the screen that you'll be working with a mix of colleagues from FAIR Core for EOSC and also from FAIR Impact. And we anticipate that this participation would require about 10 days of effort. So it would be giving people 5,000 euros to enable those 10 days of effort to be undertaken. So that is the first support action that we have on offer. The second one is creating EOSC-compliant policies based on the EOSC Interoperability Framework. And in this support action, you'll be introduced to some interoperability guidelines that have been developed by the FAIR Impact project. These are a work in progress at the moment. And then you will work to self-assess the interoperability status of your own service using the FAIR Core for EOSC Compliance Assessment Toolkit. So this is an action where we would anticipate people coming in from the service provider perspective. So you should have a service that you're working with that you can assess. And you would then hopefully be able to use the participation to identify some actions that you can take to improve the interoperability of your service. So again, it's really targeted for this one on the service providers. So unless you're running a service or you have some sort of a service to offer, it's probably not the right one for you. The applicants should have a fairly sound understanding of semantic interoperability. And in this particular support action, you'll be working with my FAIR Impact colleague, Esteban Gonzalez. And again, we're expecting about 10 days of work that would need to go into this. And that, again, is a mix of workshops where you're working with the support providers and a bit of homework on your own. And again, you would get 5,000 euros to help you to take part. The third offer is testing the trustworthy and fair enabling repositories prototype. And in this support action, you will have the chance to work with something that we're developing in the FAIR Impact project. It's picking up on some work that we had in the last open call for financial support, where we explored exposing trustworthiness for digital repositories. So the work is now helping to develop a prototype, and people who we would encourage to come in and work with us on this particular support action would obviously be those who are working in data repositories. We do think that you would need a fair amount of technical skills to get the most out of working in this particular support action. So we would expect you to have the authority to implement metadata changes. So obviously you would need to be the person in your repository who can make these changes happen, or at least be able to work with the right people who can implement those kind of changes. We would be looking for you to develop a test instance of the repository just to take part in this particular support action. And my colleague Robert, who's on the call, may have more that he can say about this a little bit later. And the other thing that would be useful for this is familiarity with the Research Data Alliance DROG report and attributes. So those are the kinds of things we'd be expecting to see here. Again, we've got quite a few people working to support this one, colleagues from DANS, KIT, University of Bremen, and the UK Data Service. This one, again, I think across the board, most of the support actions are about 10 days of work with the workshops and the homework. And again, 5,000 euros would be given to successful applicants to take part. The last one that we have here is an implementation of a shared API for semantic catalogues. And in this particular support action, You will be able to implement an API that has been developed in the Fair Impact project through our work package 4. And the API is intended to promote interoperability and to enhance access to semantic artifact catalogs. So in this particular instance, I think it's worth us mentioning that by semantic artifacts catalogs, we mean web applications offering harmonized, rich metadata descriptions of semantic artifacts, but it could also be those who are hosting or serving the content of those catalogs. So it's quite a little bit broader in this respect. For again, this one, you would need some experience with semantic web technologies. RESTful API development, again, would be something that we would be keen to see amongst those who are applying. Familiarity with ontology management and catalog operations, and there's a couple of examples here of DCAT or MOD. And in this particular support action, you'll be working with colleagues from STFC, INRAE, CNRS, and UPM. This one's a little bit longer. It's 12 days of effort that we think you would need between the virtual workshops and the homework. And for this one, you'd be getting 8,000 euros to help you to take part. So that's a quick recap of the support actions. A reminder of what we will provide. There is this mix of virtual workshops. And again, it's probably worth stressing that there's nothing face-to-face here. Everything is virtual to make it easier for people to take part. And in those virtual workshops, you'll get the one-to-one experience with the support providers and get some guidance and advice. You will also get the chance to help shape some of these emerging tools. So all of these things are new and they're still in development. So it's your chance to help inform the future development of some of these. The financial support is really, again, there just to help you to justify your participation. It's only intended to be used to support your time. You can't use the money for travel or buying equipment or anything. It is really there just to help you buy out your time to take part. And most importantly, I think it's also a really useful chance for you to engage with peers. So within each of the support actions, you'll be working with people who are in a similar position to you, and you'll learn not only from the people providing the support, but from the peers that you're working with as well. What we expect from you is, again, if we've said in our open call documentation that you need to have specific skills, then you or somebody else in the team really does need to have those. You need to bring them with you to get the most out of participation. So we would expect you to be ready to hit the ground running with that respect. Willingness to participate in the workshops. We know that the timing isn't going to be possible for every single person to meet every single workshop, but wherever possible, we would like you to try to ensure that somebody from your team can take part. Willingness to do the homework. So there is some expectation you'll do work on your own. We'll have office hours for the in-between times between the virtual workshops so that you can get a little bit of guidance from the support providers during that homework, but there is an expectation that you will do some of this independently. And again, what we're hoping is also to pick up with you in the time we have left in the project, which is limited, but we do want to kind of pick up with you just periodically to hear how you've gotten on since you took part. So that is what we're expecting. One thing that you will have to do as a condition of grant is to take part in an exit questionnaire just to help provide some feedback and to draft a fair implementation story. And this is just a really short 2 to 3 page document where you can outline what it is you did in the support action and key lessons that you've taken away from it. And the reason for us producing these is just to help share some of the lessons learned a little bit more broadly. Some information now on who can apply. Because we are a European Commission funded project, we are constrained a little bit by who we can give the money to. We are looking to provide money to people who are EU member states or associated countries, and applicants should reside and or work in an EU member state or an associated country for the duration of the support action. We do offer more wide, if you're coming from a country that isn't a member state or an associated country, we have had people apply in the past. but they just make clear that they will take part as observers. And in that respect, they don't get money, but they can join the virtual workshops. So if you are coming from a country that isn't within one that we consider eligible, you can still apply, but you would just need to make clear that you could apply as an observer. We're looking to include a wide range of people. So we've got research performing organizations and research infrastructures. It could be people working at repositories and metadata service providers, but it can also be people who work at national or international level initiatives. So we're quite open to the kinds of people who can apply. As long as you fit in with the criteria that we ran through, then I think you just need to make sure that you're meeting the specs that are outlined for each of the calls. But apart from that, we're fairly open to who we're willing to work with. We do have some FAQs, and we have a link here that you can access. It's also in the shared document. So if you have some specific questions that we don't get to today and you think about them later, check that as well, because you could get some useful information there. A quick recap now of how to go about making your application. We have a dedicated system called the Trust Grants platform, and you can access this through the link on the bottom of the screen. Just a note, you do have to have a Fair Impact web account to access this. So if you can't access it right away, you might have to go and create that first. But once you come in, you'll see a platform kind of homepage here, and you just choose whichever of the offers you want to apply for, click it, and start going through the web form. It's a relatively straightforward process. We have tried to keep it limited to the questions we're asking. The intention was to try and make it not too onerous for anybody completing the application. So it really shouldn't take you more than an hour, I think, to put together an application. You just need to answer a few questions. So we've tried to keep the burden quite low. Once the deadline is passed and all the applications are in, what we do in the Fair Impact Project is allocate it to 3 peer reviewers who will carry out their independent evaluations of each of the applications, and then we reach a consensus view. So we have a very transparent approach to how we evaluate the proposals that are submitted. So that was just a quick run through of what we have on offer and how to go about applying. But now I think what we want to do for the remainder of this session is to give you a chance to ask any specific questions you have. And as I mentioned, we do have shared notes, and I'm just going to take a look and see if anybody has put any questions into that. The first question, I think we did have one that came in through the online system just before today's session started. And so I will pick that one up first, and that was whether you can apply to more than one action. And the answer to that is yes, there's no limit to how many of these support actions you can actually apply to join. The project will not give any individual applicant more than 10,000 euros though. So the way that this kind of might be considered, so if you have already been a recipient of support from Fair Impact, what we would do then is, if you are selected as a successful applicant to one of the support actions coming up in this call, we would have to kind of take into account what you have received before and subtract that from the 10,000. So that would mean, you know, if you had 2,500 from us before, you're eligible to still receive up to 7,500. We did have one support action in the last open call that gave people who were successful applicants 10,000 euros. So if you were one of those support action participants, then unfortunately you've reached your limit. But we would also be happy to consider people taking part as observers, again, where you don't get money, but you can take part and be part of the workshops. So that is one of the questions. I think we had somebody put in, I think it was you, Ada, so who is the beneficiary, the institution or the employee? And the answer to this is that it's up to you. We allow applications from individuals or from organizations. The reason we've gone with this approach is through bitter experience, to be honest. It can be quite difficult for somebody to bring in a small grant, especially if we're looking at 5,000 euros. it can be very difficult to go through all the hoops that your organization might expect you to run through. In those cases, we are happy for you to apply as an individual. It's kind of up to you how you declare that at your organization. But what we do want to see in your application is where you will be using the knowledge that you've gained. So if that is within an organizational context, then that is definitely something to make clear in the application. But it is up to you how you want to do this. If you do apply as an individual, then it's completely up to you how you declare that time, you know, within your organization. If you take it as annual leave or how you do it, we don't ask any questions about that, but it's up to you how this is going to work best for you. So I hope that helps to answer that question. I can see somebody typing in here now. I'll give you a minute to do that. And while that is getting written, and I'm going to have a look here at the chat. So there's a question from Aline. I don't know, Aline, is it easier maybe just to unmute and ask your question?
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I wanted to ask about the first call. So is it possible, because at our level, we have developed in-house repository. So intend to researchers to deposit data. And for now, there is a very minimal set of required metadata. And we would like to develop the repository and implement some more vocabularies and standards to make possible for the researcher to gain some sense and some sensitivity about the use of their principles and the use of certain kind of data. So I was wondering if this kind of project would fit in the frame of the call and the tools that are identified to work along the call, the DTR and MSCR. So that was my question.
Yeah, Hans, do you want to respond? Well, I think we're having some problems with your audio, Hans. I don't know if it's just me.
The laptop microphone now, is that working better?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, thanks.
All right. So I believe this fits the use case very well, actually, and you can, on the DTR and the MACR together, you can register any kind of vocabulary, metadata schema elements, or entire metadata schemas. What you do in the end with them on your end for your repositories, that's up to you. You can export them in whatever format or style you like. For example, you can register the data types and the metadata schema, and then call an API endpoint to include that in your own repository and software to fulfill these standards you set there. So I believe it would fit very well, but if you want to follow up on that, we can chat later, definitely.
Okay. So thank you.
Yeah, so if there is anything else that's not clear, like just let us know and we can pick it up, or we do have a help desk email that it's in the shared document as well, so you can get in touch with us through either of those. So does that answer your question okay for now, or?
For now, yes.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, now maybe we can go to you.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Joy. So I have a question about the API call. So I think it's Fort. So I'm representing a project that is called Terminology Services for NFDI, for the National Research Infrastructure in Germany. And we are developing an NPI gateway to connect basically to all the terminology services that are available within the consortia in the project. So, and we are interested in working on the call and applying basically the MOD API. My question would be how, like, what are the expectations? How many endpoints? Is there like a limit? How many endpoints we should implement? Like, because there are many, and also like implementing not only the endpoint but also the output format. I don't. That's my question.
I think I'll bring in Anthony to respond to this one. He'll be the lead for that support action.
Ooh, I don't think we've actually put a sort of quantity on the number of endpoints that we're expecting. I mean, we'd hope that quite a few of these should all map onto things that people are already doing, and hopefully, you'll be able to sort of say take these endpoints and map them onto something already, and possibly just sort of small restructuring of the data. Oh yes, I'm sorry, I really couldn't tell you how many we say we were going to require. I mean, we'd like to as many as possible in the time.
Yeah.
But then also I think, because this is something that we've had input from a few people from, but not sort of a wider group, that it may be in practice that some of these endpoints are easily implementable by everyone, but then there's one or two that some people can do and others that it's just not going to be practical. So yeah, we are definitely sort of open for discussion, and if necessary, if the consensus is that this endpoint isn't working for the majority of the people, not useful, then yeah, we can revise that. It's very much a sort of a two-way thing. This is sort of, I think, if we take it, this is the initial prototype. Hopefully it's a sort of minimal viable product there that will go out.
Okay.
Okay. That helps.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the other thing is too, we've got a certain number of days, obviously, that we're supporting you. So whatever you think is realistic within the number of days you have to work with. So if only working with one is feasible, that's fine. But if you see potential then to apply what you've learned with other ones afterwards, that would certainly be worth putting in the application too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so I think I see nothing else in the chat here, so I'm going to go back to the document. And there's a question, Richard, you're asking, as an EOSC champion, you'd like to observe on one or more of the support calls, no interest in receiving cash, which is good because you're not eligible as a champion anyway. But yeah, I think certainly there would be no problem in taking part and observing. That would be fine. So if you want to let us know which ones you're interested in, then we can certainly point you to the right places when these kick off. Okay. So I think we've already answered the question from Aline. Go back to the chat. Is any other questions from people? So Matheus, I see you've got your hand up.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I see a certain overlap between the action 2 and 3. Now, action 3 is very technical, which requires certain implementation efforts. But action 2, is it about creating a policy or actually implementing a policy?
Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Esteban, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. The idea is to start working in metrics that can be assessed to create a interoperability policy. So if you have, for example, an interoperability policy in your institutions, the idea is to use this tool like CAT with the metrics to see the compliance of this, the compliance of your some specific service with your interoperability policy. Okay. In case you don't have a policy, you can use the guidelines that we are producing in Fair Impact to adapt to your institution, okay? And
Okay,
then
so I represent a repository, and currently in the repository we use certain metadata standards and formats, but we don't have a policy as such. We only have a specification of which metadata our depositors should provide and in which form. And I was wondering what is the output of the action 2? Is it more? Should the policy itself be the product of this action, or actually implementing it? And
no, it's about implementing anything. Okay.
okay.
It is basically the idea is in your case the output will be the guidelines that we have adapted to your institution, and then you can create an interoperability policy, no, based on these guidelines and the metrics, and you can evaluate also this to assess this policy, no, with the metrics that we are identifying, and for sure you can give us some feedback and say, hey, maybe these metrics in my institution is implemented in that way. Okay, so I adapt these metrics to these guidelines.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think in some cases, whether it's a policy or a specification, I think it's whatever you want to call it within your organization, but it's wherever you might spell out these kind of requirements that you have for interoperability. So I think, Esteban, you raise a good point. A lot of the support actions, it's not just one way. We are also looking to get the feedback from you. And I think that's true for all of the support actions, is that these are either prototypes or very new tools and resources. So they're very much in a state of development. And part of what we're hoping to do is to get that valuable feedback from people using them on things that maybe need to be updated or changed. So there's an expectation that we'll be able to get information from you as well. Okay, great. I'm just saying, I don't see any other hands. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions, any uncertainties or things that you would like to have clarified. No, one new message. Well, if there's no other questions, I mean, we don't want to keep you any longer than is necessary for today's session.
Maybe one thing.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Monique.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Because I wrote a question before to the email address, and I got a response that this was an open email list, and my question, like my email had to be validated, and I never got a response. And I'm not really sure if this email address is up and running. I mean, I can try to send a message again, but it would be practical to have this contact point, and I failed to get my question.
Do you know that it's probably it's a me thing rather than a technical thing, because I've been traveling a lot the last couple of weeks, so I probably just haven't had a chance to get to your question. But if you want to, do you want to ask it now?
It's answered already in the session, so this is all good. But,
right. Yeah. So apologies if you have put something in, because it has been the last couple of weeks have been a bit of a whirlwind, so I've got a little bit of a backlog to get through. So
yeah, I just wanted to check in case there was something wrong, because it's nice to have this point of contact, I think.
Yeah, I wish I could blame the technology on this one, but in this case, it is just it's a me problem rather than the technology. Okay. Yeah, no worries. And if you need anything else, just give me a shout, because it does work. Okay, so if there aren't any other questions, then I will just draw it to a close now and say, yeah, please do use the shared document if you want to add questions. We'll keep an eye on that. Make use of the help desk thing, because we will be, I'm in the office now, and I'll be able to answer these things more quickly. And the deadline for the applications is the 4th of December. So make sure you try to get them in before that. We're really hoping that we can get through the evaluations before Christmas. So the idea is that we'll get back to you with the outcomes by the 8th of January at the latest. But if we can get through things quicker, ideally we can maybe let you know even before the end of this year whether you've been as successful or not. So please do apply, and we're hopefully going to be starting to work with you in the new year. So good luck, and get in touch if you have any other questions. And thank you to all of the support providers for their input, and thanks to all of you for joining. So have a good day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.